Have you ever wondered how the world as we know it today came to be so interconnected? The answer lies in a pivotal period in history known as the Age of Exploration, which spanned from the 15th to the 17th centuries. This was a time when European explorers, fueled by a potent cocktail of curiosity, ambition, and the desire for the unknown, set sail to uncharted territories stretching from the Americas to Africa, Asia, and Australia. The motivations behind this grand endeavor were as diverse as they were compelling. The quest for new trade routes to the east, particularly for the lucrative spice trade, was a significant driver. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 had disrupted traditional overland routes, leaving Europeans thirsty for an alternative pathway to the treasures of the East. But it wasn't just about spices and silk. The expansion of Christianity was a powerful motivator, with explorers and missionaries alike eager to spread their faith to distant lands. Driven by a sense of duty, or perhaps destiny, they ventured forth, Bible in hand, to convert the unknown world. Yet, at the heart of it all, was a thirst for knowledge and adventure, an insatiable curiosity to uncover the mysteries of the world. These explorers were the astronauts of their day, pushing the boundaries of the known world, charting new territories, and expanding our collective understanding of the planet. As ships departed European harbors, filled with hopes and dreams, the world was on the brink of monumental change. New lands would be discovered, cultures encountered, economies transformed, and empires born. The world was about to get a whole lot smaller. Unknown to them at the time, these explorers were not just embarking on personal journeys of discovery, but were setting in motion a tidal wave of change that would reverberate through the centuries. The ripples of their voyages would touch every corner of the globe, shaping the course of history and the world as we know it today. So began an era that would forever alter the course of history. What did the Age of Exploration mean for Europe? This period was more than just a few daring explorers venturing into the unknown. It was a transformative time that forever changed the trajectory of the continent. The Age of Exploration brought an influx of new goods and wealth to Europe. Spices from the East, precious metals from the Americas, and exotic goods from Africa and Asia all flowed into European markets. This stimulation of trade and commerce, in turn, drove economic growth and prosperity. It was a time of merchant princes and flourishing trade cities, where the hum of bustling markets echoed with the promise of wealth and opportunity. But the impact was not just economic. Knowledge was another invaluable commodity gained from these explorations. European minds were set ablaze with the newfound understanding of the world. Maps were redrawn, horizons expanded, and the European worldview was forever changed. The mysteries of the globe were slowly being unveiled, sparking a thirst for knowledge that would eventually herald the Age of Enlightenment. This era also saw the rise of European empires. Nations like Spain, Portugal, England, and the Netherlands, once confined to their own corners of the continent, were now vying for control of far-flung territories. These nations established colonies, built powerful navies, and forged trade routes that spanned the globe. The Age of Exploration was the stepping stone for Europe's ascent to global dominance, and yet it wasn't all golden glory. This age was also one of conflict and exploitation. The scramble for colonies often led to brutal conquests and the subjugation of indigenous populations. The relentless pursuit of wealth saw the birth of the transatlantic slave trade, a dark chapter in human history that still casts a long shadow today. So, what did the Age of Exploration mean for Europe? It was a period of immense growth and change, a time of discovery and expansion that reshaped the European identity. But it was also a time of contradiction, where the pursuit of knowledge and wealth was often marred by exploitation and violence. Europe, once a fragmented continent, was now on its way to becoming a global powerhouse. But what was the price paid by the Americas in this grand age of discovery? As Europeans set foot on the shores of the New World, they brought with them more than just their hopes and dreams. Unbeknownst to them, they carried diseases like smallpox and measles, against which the indigenous populations had no immunity. These diseases spread like wildfire, decimating the native peoples in their wake. It's estimated that within the first century of contact, up to 90% of the native population perished, forever altering the cultural and demographic landscape of the Americas. Alongside this biological warfare, the Europeans waged a war of subjugation. They saw the indigenous populations not as fellow human beings, but as resources to exploit. The Spanish conquistadors, for instance, enslaved the Aztecs and Incas, forcing them to mine for gold and silver in their own lands. Meanwhile, further north, English colonists displaced native tribes, seizing their lands for the cultivation of profitable crops like tobacco. The exploitation didn't end there. In the Caribbean and South America, the Europeans established plantations, growing sugar, coffee, and cocoa on an industrial scale. But these plantations required labor, and that labor was forcibly extracted from the local populations. Millions of Native Americans were enslaved, their lives reduced to back-breaking toil under the tropical sun. But the impact of the Age of Exploration on the Americas wasn't just about loss and exploitation. It was also a story of resilience and adaptation. Despite the onslaught of disease, slavery, and displacement, the indigenous peoples of the Americas held on to their cultures, their languages, and their ways of life. They resisted, they adapted, and they survived, ensuring that their rich and diverse heritage continues to be a part of the Americas story. The Americas, a rich tapestry of civilizations, were irrevocably disrupted. Yet in the face of unimaginable adversity, they have remained a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. How did Africa and Asia fare under the European explorers? Let's begin with Africa. The Age of Exploration witnessed the establishment of European trading posts along the African coast. These trading posts became the hub for trading commodities like gold, ivory, and an unfortunate addition, slaves. The slave trade was a dark chapter in this age, leading to a catastrophic impact on African societies. Millions of people were captured, stripped of their freedom, and sold into slavery, forever altering the course of African history. Meanwhile, the impact on Asia was no less transformative. The Age of Exploration saw the establishment of trade routes to India, China, and Japan. These routes were not just pathways for goods, they were conduits for ideas, cultures, and influences. Europe's thirst for spices, silk, and other exotic goods led to a flow of wealth from Asia to Europe, changing the economic balance. But the trade was not a one-way street. It wasn't just about Europe taking from Asia. European ideas and culture also found their way to Asia, shaping and influencing Asian societies in profound ways. The introduction of Christianity, the spread of scientific knowledge, and the influence of European political systems reshaped many aspects of Asian societies. However, this exchange was not always peaceful or voluntary. The establishment of these trade routes often came with violence, coercion, and exploitation. European powers, in their quest for wealth and dominance, often imposed their will on Asian societies, leading to periods of strife and conflict. So, the Age of Exploration was a time of significant change for Africa and Asia. These continents, home to ancient and rich civilizations, found themselves caught in the crosshairs of European ambition. The impacts of this era, both positive and negative, continue to reverberate today, shaping the modern world in countless ways. Africa and Asia, continents of ancient civilizations, became pawns in the European quest for dominance. And what about the land down under? Let's turn our gaze upon Australia, the last of the continents to be discovered during the Age of Exploration. The first European to set eyes on this vast, uncharted land was the Dutch explorer Willem Janszoon in 1606. His encounter, however, did not lead to immediate colonization. It was not until over a century later that the British, in their quest for new territories, began to colonize Australia. This colonization had a profound impact on the indigenous population, the Aboriginal people, whose way of life was dramatically disrupted. The British settlers, fueled by the spirit of the Age of Exploration, utilized the land and resources to their advantage, introducing new farming practices and livestock that transformed the Australian landscape. In the process, Australia, a land unknown to Europeans, was now drawn into the global map. So, what legacy did the Age of Exploration leave behind? This epoch in history left an indelible mark on our world. It was an era that ushered in the globalization of trade, connecting continents and cultures like never before. European ideas and culture spread far and wide, leaving their imprint on societies across the globe. But it wasn't just about discovery and knowledge. The Age of Exploration bore witness to the darker side of human ambition. The Americas, Africa, and Asia felt the brunt of this, as colonization and slavery decimated populations and disrupted societies. The influx of new goods and wealth stimulated Europe's economy, fueling the rise of empires. Yet the cost was immense. Countless lives were lost, cultures uprooted, and societies forever changed. In essence, the age of exploration, an era of discovery, was also an era of devastation and transformation.